look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. I know cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Oh, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking time for Hemp. I am your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to the live broadcast of Time for Hemp all around the world on Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and I want to thank you for tuning in and making us part of your Healthy Mondays. That's what we do here on Time for Hemp every Monday. We celebrate good health and what this remarkable plant can do for our bodies, our spirit, our mind, and our soul. And we like to put a spotlight on the hardworking people at Patients Out of Time every Monday and bring them on and let them know how much we love them. Also, a big thank you to KDK Distributors for being nice enough to give us a grant to keep us loud, proud, and strong. And a big thank you to Patients At a Time for keeping us up and going as well. Without their support, we still would not be on the air. We have a interesting program today, as always, with our joint host, Mary Lynn Mathry and Al Byrne from Patients Out of Time. Good morning, Mary Lynn and Al.
Hey, Casper. Nice to hear your voice since yesterday. It's been a long time, but nice to hear your voice. And this is Al Byrne and Mary Lynn Mathry, and we're here representing Patients Out of Time. You can find our information at www.medicalcannabis.com. We're a 501c3 educational charity. Since 1995, we have educated U.S. doctors and nurses in particular, but also the American public, about the therapeutic and clinical uses of cannabis. If you're a healthcare professional, or you know a healthcare professional, or you're a patient that ever in your life goes to see a healthcare professional again, you should insist that that healthcare professional have a working knowledge of both the uses of cannabis clinically and of the endocannabinoid system. If your doctor or nurse does not have that knowledge, you should instruct them to get it. If they don't get it, go get another doctor or nurse that knows what they're talking about. The endocannabinoid system is found in all living creatures on Earth with the exception of insects. It's relatively important, therefore, that people that deal with medicine know these things. And so, again, I repeat, every living creature. So if you have a dog and you take your dog to the veterinarian and you say, tell me about my dog's endocannabinoid system, that veterinarian will look at you like you're crazy. But the one that's crazy is the vet that doesn't know. And it's the same thing about your medical doctor or your registered nurse. This says the endocannabinoid system has been around since the end of the 80s. That's like almost 20 years ago, and we don't have any medical school or nursing school in the United States, with the exception of Tulane University in Philadelphia, that has a course on the medical uses of cannabis or the endocannabinoid system. That should frighten you if you're a patient. That should frighten you if you ever think you're going to be a patient and you're going to go to your doctor and they're not going to know what they're talking about. It's a shame, but it's America, and here's where we are. But today, fortunately, you're here on Patients Out of Time's hour, and we do have cannabis experts that can enlighten you, and then you can go enlighten your doctor or your nurse. And today, I understand we have a nurse. I don't know this lady, and so I'm going to let Mary Lynn introduce her to you all.
Yeah, we've got an oncology nurse coming to us from California and the Bay Area, and want to welcome Eloise Theisen to join us. Her background's in oncology, but actually, Eloise, as we usually start this off, we usually have our guest give us a little background in terms of professionally and how you got interested in cannabis.
Well, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me today, Al and Mary Lynn. I really appreciate it. My background is I started out in oncology nursing about 14 years ago. And during that time, I did various other things. I did hospice and palliative care. I did home care. I also did management and
Hello, did we lose you? Yeah, Eloise got dropped. We're right back.
Okay.
Eloise,
well, let
I
me.
guess you guys
Eloise.
lost me, huh?
All right, you got dropped, so you're back now.
All right. I'm back. Should I start over?
Yes.
Sorry about that, you guys. My name's Eloise, and I'm a nurse practitioner. I just recently graduated from nurse practitioner school. My background is oncology of 14 years. During that time, I've also done hospice and palliative care, as well as management and teaching at various universities. My journey to cannabis has been in the last couple of years. Working in oncology, a lot of patients would come in and want to know if... Did I get dropped again, or are you guys there?
No, we're right here listening.
Okay.
We're here.
Okay, God, goodness gracious. So anyways, a lot of patients would come to me and want to know more about cannabis and how they could use it with their cancer treatment. And I just didn't know anything about it. I would tell them, go ahead. And then I started to hear reports about how great they were doing and how much it helped. And then working, I think, as a nurse practitioner in an clinical community office, a lot of patients have become really savvy, I would say, in the last year. And on average of seeing 10 patients today, about half of them would inquire about how cannabis could help them with their treatment. So it was really fascinating to watch the patients become educated and how I became the expert in the office because no one else knew anything about it. The physicians would only allow it for patients if they were stage 4. But if they had a curable cancer, they generally would not allow them a recommendation. So it's a really interesting dynamic to watch. Fortunately, in the state of California, it's your right if you have cancer to medical cannabis, and so a lot of those patients learned the workaround. And then I would work with them on how to use it to be successful with their treatment.
Hey, Eloise, I'm not familiar with all the details of California, but are nurse practitioners in California allowed to recommend cannabis?
No, we are not. Only physicians and DOs, doctors of osteopaths, can recommend. So often they would get the recommendation.
So you're a nurse practitioner and you know a lot about cannabis and you can't recommend it, but medical doctors who have not caught up with the science can.
Correct.
That's really stupid. That's stupid.
Yeah. It's fascinating to see the fear and ignorance, I think, in the medical community around cannabis. And I would say I'm a converter as well, you know.
Well, one thing that I just learned from Dr. Mark Ware, who's a very famous cannabis physician in Canada, and he presented at our last conference in Portland about a month ago, was that in a survey he took with Canadian doctors, it was pretty frightening. It was something like 65% of the doctors that answered the survey, and there were several hundred of them, maybe more than that, were really concerned about the toxicity of cannabis. They didn't know whether it would kill you or not. And here we have information on cannabis that has never killed anybody on the face of the earth ever. And you wonder how that doesn't make it into the medical community. Have you met doctors who are worried about toxicity?
Absolutely. In fact, one of my favorite things to tell people is when I chose not to stay at the oncology clinic and work there, I told them I wanted to pursue cannabis medicine. And the physician said to me, well, so you're going to be a drug pusher? And I started laughing and I said, well, isn't that what we do here? The safety profile is much better for cannabis than it is for the narcotics or even the chemotherapy agents that we give. So I thought that was a really good indication to me of how little knowledge people actually have in the medical community around cannabis.
Yeah, and how brainwashed they are. How brainwashed. And it's funny too, because here you are talking about this wonderful herbal medicine, and you're exactly right. They're pushing drugs, some chemicals specifically, and chemo. I mean, my goodness, chemotherapy. You hope you kill the cancer before you kill the patient with that.
It's interesting that doctor, when you say cannabis to him, he thinks it's a drug.
Correct.
He probably doesn't know it's a plant. Do you think he knows it's a plant, that it grows in the ground?
He knows his son uses it.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I just don't know if they know it's a plant. I mean, the federal government doesn't seem to know it's a plant, except when they're pulling them up. Because when they talk about cannabis, of course, they use the wrong word, which is marijuana, which is slang and derogatory. But that's what they do. They're slang, derogatory people. But it's a drug when we're talking about taking it internally, or people are using it. But it's a plant when they're ripping it out of the ground. They're confused as your doctors, I think.
I agree.
Well, listen. When you talk about oncology patients, let's be clear. These people are generally very, very ill to dying, and yet they came into your clinic apparently with more knowledge than you or the staff. How does a medical professional like you? I mean, they know what you did. You said, "Hey, wait a minute, what's going on?" You listened to the patient. How does the rest of the folks you work with not have that sensibility, that empathy, that understanding, that curiosity?
Well, I think the way that the system is set up is that it's a money-making system. You're trying to see a max amount of patients in a small amount of time to increase your revenues and profits, and so people don't really take the time to stop and listen. A lot of times, when I first got there, I said, well, how do you guys feel about integrating, integrative medicine? And they said, well, we're a Western practice. We only believe in Western medicine. I was just flabbergasted by that. And I said, well, your patients, when I left them, I said, your patients are very savvy and they know that cannabis can help them. And I think it would be in your best interest to educate yourselves more. I offered to stay on as a cannabis consultant, and they laughed and said, thank you, but no thank you. I don't think
established. Where was this? Is this an established clinic or hospital, been around for a while?
Yeah, they've been around for about 11 years. They're in the Bay Area. Research in the community.
They were actually formed up after the cannabis law was passed, quite a while after that.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's sad. I mean, it just seems so sad to be so close-minded about it. The other question, I guess, is, do you know if any of them, do they talk at all about the endocannabinoid system? I try to push that one past. No. Do you think they even know about it?
I did educate one physician there about the endocannabinoid system, and I remember talking to him. We had a patient who had come in who'd been cured of his lymphoma and was now suffering from severe peripheral neuropathy. And the patient had actually inquired about cannabis, and the physician was like, well, I don't know. And we came out of the room, and I said, well, what tools do we have in our toolbox for peripheral neuropathy? And he started saying, Lyrica, Neurontin, Norco. And I said, well, what about cannabis? And he looked at me, kind of funny. And he said, well, I don't know. What about it? So then I brought in some articles for him to educate him. And we started to talk about it. And he said, so, can you use cannabis at the end of a really hard day at the office to help you relax? And I thought, maybe he's, he was probably the most open-minded one I had, where he actually listened to what I had to say and how it could help patients, and maybe even thought it would help him, in a very, even practitioners, I think, are in such a stressful environment that it would benefit them as well.
Yeah, and it is sad because it can be a real benefit. Healthcare professionals, and especially in oncology, that's a stressful environment. You've got people, clearly suffering, and hoping they're going to beat the cancer. And I don't know, but my guess is that the peripheral neuropathy may well be a result of the chemotherapy.
It is. Yes, there are very certain chemotherapies that do that. And a lot of post-traumatic stress.
We'll go to neuropathy first.
Why don't you talk a little bit about peripheral neuropathy, what that means to patients?
Well, so depending on the cancer treatment, there's certain chemotherapy agents that are known to cause peripheral neuropathy. A lot of numbness, tingling, pain, usually starts in the toes, fingertips, can become so severe that people end up being unable to walk. They drop things. They can no longer button stuff. It can be very debilitating. Breast cancer treatment. Is it chronic?
Yeah, I mean, once the treatment stops, is there a half-life? It goes away, or does it stay there forever?
Well, it can be damaging.
Yeah.
It's permanent. Okay, it could be permanent. Okay,
it could be permanent, yeah, depending on, we try to monitor patients during their treatment, and if the neuropathy gets severe enough, we'll either decrease their dose or hold off on their treatment, maybe even stop it altogether. It can take years for it to go away, and sometimes it never goes away.
Well, we've had at least one patient on here that testified on the radio show that with the application of a topical cream or
cannabis,
salve, cannabis infused in some manner, a salve put on his feet, which were burning. He had that burning sensation, he described it. His wife rubbed this stuff into his feet one night, and I think he said about a half an hour later, for the first time in years, he felt his feet, and they didn't hurt.
Yeah.
His peripheral neuropathy was a result of his diabetes, but, different things. And that's so interesting with what you say about the peripheral neuropathy, because that's what some of the cannabis researchers are looking at, trying to see if the cannabinoids help with cancer treatment, but they're finding that, to use it with chemotherapy to help protect the healthy cells, and actually maybe be a little synergistic with the chemo on killing the bad cancer cells. So it's a sad thing. Here you are trying to get the clinic to be more proactive with their patients and prevent some untoward results of the chemotherapy. And maybe only one is somewhat starting to open his ears and listen.
Right. There's many barriers.
To say there's a break coming. Marilyn was supposed to say after she finished that sentence that we have to take a break now, but she didn't want to say that. She just, she's a typical woman, just wants to talk and talk and talk. But we have to. Casper has to earn his keep here, so we have to let him go to work, and we're going to take a break, folks, and we'll be back with Eloise in just a few minutes. Thank you.
Listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
In need of a ganja vacation? blaze away at Hotbox Jamaica. Chill, relax, burn all day while watching the amazing ocean view. Listen to the birds. Bathe in the mineral waters of the Ganja River. Munch on tasty Jamaican Rasta food. Take a weed farm tour and hold a meditation. Book this amazing vacation for $420. Get the Sativa Special, 7 nights in Sativa dorms with Ganja meals and airport transfer. Check us out at hotboxjamaica.com. That's hotboxjamaica.com. A Haya meditation vacation.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com, or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Education and information. See what all the buzz is all about. It's time for hemp. It's time for hemp. Ganja.
Some may say, why they take my choice? My way of life is my freedom's voice. If the government cared about your health, cigarettes and liquor be off the shelf. Propaganda feeds the hungry beast. The government is best, which governs least. We said, some we say, ganja. We say, ganja. Some may say, why they take my choice? Back in the day, the people had no voice. 1937, the FBN, Harry and Slinger and some shady men. They locked the Congress saying marijuana kills, 'cause hemp fathers said that the paper mills. We said, some we say, ganja. We say, ganja.
That was the Echo Movement here on Time for Hemp. You are listening to us live all around the world on Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, timeforhemp.com, and, of course, iHeartRadio. We are the only all-cannabis network on iHeartRadio. I have some exciting news. Not only are we like 24 hosts bringing you about 45 to 50 hours a week of original programming about the need to end prohibition, we are constantly adding new programming. 2 new shows are being added to our schedule this month, one of which will be, I'm so excited to say, the Japanese version of Time for Hemp. It'll be starting the last week of this month and will be on every Monday and Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard. The reason why it's on at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard is because at that time of day in Japan, that's the 4 o'clock hour. And that way our host can be a part of the 420 events every day in Japan. I'm pretty excited. Don't forget, we've also got a French version of Time for Hemp that broadcasts straight out of Paris, France, every Friday in the afternoons here. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, Mike Bafari and Morgiana Sativa bring to you from Chile and other parts of the world an all-Spanish version of Time for Hemp. It is exciting to be part of such an historic group of people doing so much hard work. We need donations here. Please help keep us going. We got the light bill and the cable bill to conquer this month, so please go to the timeforhemp.com website and hit the donate button if you like the hard work we are doing. With all that said, I will pass this joint conversation back to my joint host and our joint guest. And please don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the big joint broadcast, nearly 2.5 million people all around the world jointly pack their bongs, their pipes, their vaporizers, and their joints and jointly smoke out here at Time for Hemp. Mary Lynn and Al, the two of you do a great joint host. I will pass this joint conversation back to you.
Ohio, Casper. Anyway, that's Japanese, by the way. Ohio.
What's it mean?
Well, what's it mean? I think it means hello. How are you today? I think it is some Japanese. Anyway, back to the issue. Eloise, let me get this right. Is it Theisen or Theisen?
Theisen.
Theisen. Okay, Eloise. Eloise is a an old hand at registered nursing, but a new nurse practitioner, and our congratulations go to you. I like nurse practitioners. I don't know. I just like nurses, I think. They have a different attitude than doctors, so we'll leave that alone. But listen, earlier on in the conversation, you were talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, which I don't like. I very much prefer to use post-traumatic stress syndrome or something like that, because I don't believe it's a disorder. And I came to that conclusion probably around 1990 when I was working as a peer counselor for Vietnam combat veterans for the Veterans Administration and the Agent Orange program. The Agent Orange program for you young folks was the chemical they poured on the jungles of Vietnam and on top of us and killed the jungles and a lot of us. So we were doing counseling, and frankly, I would say the majority of the counseling revolved around post-traumatic stress. I didn't see it as a disorder. I saw that the vets, including myself, that I was surrounded with, had a very constant and easily recognized and easily defined syndrome that replicated itself over and over again, and seemed to me what the brain's reaction was in the general sense to super stress. Now, the post-traumatic stress syndrome that I saw had really gone two ways with the vets that we counsel. A large number had gone to cannabis and actually were functioning reasonably well. The other group had gone to alcohol and were destroyed. And as I understand the situation today, the same thing is happening. Alcohol is destroying our veterans when it's mixed with post-traumatic stress. We say this all the time, but it's worth saying all the time. 22 veterans a day commit suicide. 22 military veterans of your military commit suicide every day. And all the world is doing is saying, oh, well, they were in the military. They were volunteers. That's what you get when you go in the military. I guess that's what they're saying, because nobody in authority, like the president or the Secretary of Defense, is doing much about examining the fact that people like Mary Lynn and I have decades of experience seeing that cannabis and veterans and post-traumatic stress do real well. But the post-traumatic stress I recognize, Eloise, I always thought had more to do with really an invasion of the senses, the smells, the incredible noise, all of that stuff that comes down on you in a moment. But your patients got post-traumatic stress reactions from chemotherapy. Could you go into that in some detail for us all, please?
Sure. I mostly experienced it with breast cancer patients. The regimen that is usually prescribed for breast cancer patients is what we call a dose-dense treatment, meaning you get these high doses of chemotherapy agents that are given every 2 weeks. What happens, these patients will get these high doses of chemotherapy. They get very sick. They get nauseated. Some of them are vomiting. They become completely lethargic. They can't do anything for themselves. Very disabling. And then they'll recover about 4 or 5 days before they're getting ready to have their next treatment. They do that 4 times, and then they go on to 12 weeks of a weekly dose of chemotherapy. So it's a very long, intense regimen. And during that time, these women...
Well, she got dropped again, so we'll go ahead and give her another ringy-dingy here just as soon as we can make that happen. And she's coming back on the line now. We do have an occasional technical
Sorry about
problem.
that.
And you're back.
I'm back.
Okay.
Yeah, Eloise, we got to the 12-week protocol.
Okay, so after the 12 weeks, when they finish, some of them also need radiation. It's a very long, intense program for them for the potential of cure. So what I usually would hear from my patients is they would get this extreme chemo fatigue, where some of them would tell me the most that they could do was stare at the fan. That was about all the energy they had. They couldn't read, they couldn't watch TV, they couldn't cook for themselves. They're completely disabled. And then they have to rehabilitate themselves once they are done with the chemotherapy and potentially radiation treatment if they have that as well. I think we do a really poor job of preparing these women for survivorship after they have gone through all this treatment. And then what my experience would be is after they'd finish treatment is they would come in with this anxiety. For example, if they noticed a little red dot on their breast, they would call in very panicky, very concerned that they were possibly recurring with their cancer. If they had any pain anywhere, any sort of physical symptom that they had would definitely cause them to be concerned. And so I really noticed the stress of the treatment. I'm sorry, Mary Lynn?
Yeah, no, as you're talking about that, it certainly makes a lot of sense. And for a lot of people, post-traumatic stress with healthcare professionals even can happen from cumulative stress. And here they are, over and over having to go through something that's so terrible. The other thing, I wonder if you notice some of them, if they complain about what my sister would call chemo brain. My sister had leukemia, and unfortunately did not make it through her bone marrow transplant. But the frustration of chemo brain, and I remember when patients were first bringing it up, and people kept saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." But there really is. I mean, they just, she couldn't remember things, and and just kind of attribute it to that's what the chemotherapy did to her brain.
Yes, absolutely. There's disability too from that.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to remind the listeners that while we talk about post-traumatic stress, and most people do when it relates to the military and veterans, et cetera, which is certainly part of the deal, post-traumatic stress is a result of trauma. Trauma can be a physical beating, a car accident, a tree falls on you, and
this is poison.
Anything.
Whether they're getting radiated or toxic drugs.
Any of this. So a person getting radiated or getting these toxic drugs, willingly taking these things, you can imagine the stress involved. And just to remind people as well, post-traumatic stress it affects three different ways human beings. You can be the victim of post-traumatic stress trauma, say a soldier that is shot. You can be the instigator or the agitator of that issue where the soldier is shot by being a soldier who shoots the other soldier. And then you can be a simple witness to the shooting. And all three will likely end up with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress, no matter which position they were in that particular example. So your patients, their reaction was pretty much emotional, or was there some other physical thing involved, Eloise?
They definitely had a physical reaction as well. The anxiety would surface itself.
Just sickness? Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you say anxiety, I could just imagine, just the idea of, it's going to start up again, and the anxiety of hypervigilant. It sounds like they're a little hypervigilant post-chemo, like everything that pops up, this could mean cancer's back.
Yeah, they're in a constant state of fight or flight.
Wow. Okay, well, that's enlightening. It's not a good enlightenment, but it's something that I really had never thought about. But it's good to know that. So these folks would then partake of cannabis, and the stress level got level.
Well, that particular population, I would try to work with them to, educate them about the benefits of using cannabis for their post-traumatic stress that they experienced. And yes, the ones that did do it did great.
Okay, we'll get to that. We got to take another break. It's that time again till we hear from Casper. And again, I repeat Casper's words, folks. We got a lot of people around the world and in the United States putting a lot of time and effort, including Casper and his team, to make these radio shows happen and make them meaningful. And I think they are. It's a great job, but nothing runs in this country without money, including Casper and his staff. So, ante up. I mean, if you can go out and buy a quarter bag and smoke it for recreation, you can send an equal amount to Casper. So with that, let's take a break.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. Please share us with your friends.
If you are in the Portland, Oregon area and are an OMMP cardholder, then come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market, Portland, Oregon's first and only weekly OMMP market, presented by the Alternative Wellness Center, located at 5241 Southeast 72nd Avenue, 2 blocks south of Foster Boulevard, close to public transportation, held every Sunday 10 a.m. till 7 p.m., connecting quality vendors with patients. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market also has a weekly raffle with products from every vendor. So come down to Nikki's Diggity Dank Market and have fun while connecting with quality vendors and getting great natural medicine. If you are a vendor and want a chance to connect with OMMP patients, you can check out their Facebook page at facebook.com/Alternative Wellness Center or call 971-888-4392. Be sure to register early because space is limited. Nikki's Diggity Dank Market.
In need of a ganja vacation? Blaze away at Hotbox Jamaica. Chill, relax, burn all day while watching the amazing ocean view. Listen to the birds. Bathe in the mineral waters of the Ganja River. Munch on tasty Jamaican Rasta food. Take a weed farm tour and hold a meditation. Book this amazing vacation for $420. Get the Sativa Special, 7 nights in Sativa dorms with ganja meals and airport transfer. Check us out at hotboxjamaica.com. That's hotboxjamaica.com. A Haya meditation vacation.
Indigrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, Indigrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. Indigrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to Indigrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. Indigrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making Indigrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. Indigrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that Indigrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. Indigrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Free? Did you say free? Free hemp? Free hemp? Free hemp video and audio? Free downloads of all the top artists, all the pot artists on planet Earth. Interviews with all the people making the movement, making the hemp movement. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp. That's right, world. It's time for hemp.
Well, now, chocolate cake makes my poor stomach ache, and all those pills are too much for me to take. I don't like cocaine 'cause it makes me all uptight, but coffee and reefer makes me feel alright. Crystal meth will make you
Yeah, coffee and reefer does make me feel all right. First thing I do when I roll out of bed in the morning is grab myself a great big cup of Joe. Then Joe gets dressed and go to work, and I make me a cup of coffee and get in front of my computer and get busy trying to educate people on the need to end prohibition. We are having a great joint conversation today with my joint friends here on Time for Hemp. Marilyn Owl, I pass it to you.
Thanks, Casper. And folks, again, this is Mary Lynn and Al Byrne, but we represent Patients Out of Time. We are an educational charity. We've been around almost 20 years now, and you can find our work at www.medicalcannabis.com. I want to remind every one of our listeners that our next conference is within 10 months. We used to hold our conferences every 2 years, and frankly, the reason we did that is because there was not enough research worldwide that we thought we could do it every year, but that has changed. We can do it every year and then some. So our next conference will be held in April, 3rd and 4th of April. It'll be held at the Florida State University Conference Center in Tallahassee, Florida. Seating will be limited. There'll be a lot of it, but it'll be limited. We think we'll be sold out. Go to our website, medicalcannabis.com. As soon as we know, we'll start posting faculty information and agenda information, but we're going to concentrate on the neuroprotective aspects of cannabis. We'll discuss it all, but we'll concentrate on the neuroprotective aspects. And listen, what we got here, folks, is two nurses, a nurse practitioner and a registered nurse. And so my recollection, Patients at a Time has had two conferences in California. We were in 2006, we were in Santa Barbara. And 2008, we went back and we were in Monterey, California, Monterey area, Silomar. And in both occasions, the California nurses were very supportive, but the American Nurses Association, California Department, or whatever you call them, wasn't. So what's that about? How come, the ANA's got two white papers out that says every American, every United States registered nurse needs to be educated in the clinical uses and the nutritional uses of cannabis. So what's going on there? Have you guys got any insight about that?
I would say it's probably fear-based. A lot of practitioners who want to get into the industry are concerned about how to protect their license, not bringing a lot of... there are stories out there where people who have been in the public eye have lost their license as a result of it, especially if they are users themselves. I think that's where it kind of they can get in trouble. But it's definitely
especially if, as you say, users, and not just simply users like relaxing at home with it, but we've got stories, the American Cannabis Nurses Association, of nurses who are using it legitimately under their state law as a patient.
Right.
And yet somehow their license has been threatened, and you kind of think, gee, if they were treated for depression or pain or something with some other kind of medication, they don't get their license suspended.
Absolutely. How many nurses do we have out there that are taking pain medication, anti-anxiety medication, just to be able to do their job? There's no risk. I suppose you could lose your license if you were intoxicated at work, However, I think there's less of a risk with that than there is if you're a medical cannabis patient, which is really just unfair.
But you're out there, and to your knowledge, you don't see the American Nurses Association, California area, or the California nurses taking on any particular educational push or anything? They're just sort of hiding?
I think out of sight, out of mind, sort of thing.
Really?
There's
a
huge need.
Code? What about the nurse's code? Doesn't it say, I'm not a nurse, but I've read it many times, it says something in there, it's your duty or your obligation. It's pretty full. It's pretty positive about you shall go out and educate patients and people when you know something.
Exactly.
Well, and nurses are supposed, ethically, we should be influencing policies that have to do with healthcare. We're patient advocates, and to sit quietly when the patient's telling you this really helps and the law is wrong, then that's part of starting Patients Out of Time, just always seeing it from the ethical kind of looking at it as a patient advocate. How can you pretend you don't hear, which is what happens. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Nobody wants the healthcare professionals just figure if they put their head in the sand, make it go away, kind of thing. And it's like, but why? It's such a good tool for us to use with patients. In terms of low risk, high benefit, that that's the query. How do we get healthcare professionals to really rally in a stronger voice on this issue?
Well, I'm particularly surprised because you're in the Bay Area, are you not? And to hear that colleges in the Bay Area are so reluctant to accept reality or to go learn something, Boy, I always thought, that was a pretty progressive area, but apparently not within the medical doctor community. Again, I guess if these guys weren't taught anything in medical school, then it doesn't exist or something.
Right.
But it's not just that they were taught anything, they were taught marijuana, drug of abuse. Marijuana, gateway drug.
Exactly.
I mean, that was the sad. It's like we're not introducing something new. We're trying to get them to change their old thinking that was ingrained in them from.
Well, it's hard to do. I mean, there's an organization out there called procon.org or .com or something, and they interview experts on either side of all kinds of different questions. And on the medical cannabis question, I've challenged them many times, their board of directors, and they sit there and say they're right and I'm wrong, but I'm right and they're wrong. What they do is they will put up someone like Mary Lynn Mathry or Dr. Russo or Dr. Meshulam, who are world-class experts, and they will give them a 1 or maybe a 2-star rating because, they're just one nurse or one doctor. They happen to be very special, but that doesn't matter. And then over on the other side, on the con side, with the 5-star rating will be the drug czar. Why? Sure. They say because it's the government, and the government is the imprimatur of excellence. And I've argued in writing with this board of directors that they have got it, absolutely backwards. The head is stuck somewhere here, and it's that kind of mind-bending ignorance, both at a place called procon.org or within the medical doctor community of cancer doctors in San Francisco, that really makes me believe that when climate change comes down on our heads and all these people are swimming around in some cesspool, then they'll believe it because then they'll really see. And just because they can't see cannabis magically happen in a patient overnight or something, it isn't really there. And God, I can't get that kind of ignorance. I just never could.
Right.
So I applaud you. I mean, I want to applaud you. You saw something, and you did something about it in a big way, and I know you're going to continue to. So, everybody thanks everybody. Our time to thank you for carrying this forward. And, I know it's a burden, and I know you're looking out for your own livelihood and your own license, and that's stress in itself. So, what I can always say is, the best thing to do is some sort of take your own recommendations about medicine.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, Alan. I really appreciate what you and Mary Lynn do. I think that you guys are pioneers in this field, and when I went to Patients at a Time, I was blown away that, there's a conference there for medical professionals, and I just want to be a part of it as much as I can. I think we all have our own personal experience that brings us to realize the benefits of cannabis. And I take pity on those who will only find it that way, who have been, like you said, ignorant and against it, and then have, a loved one or even themselves, but that's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take to get people to see the benefits.
That happens a lot. I mean, here at University of Virginia for years, people kind of look the other way, but then all of a sudden their family member or they find themselves with some kind of problem and they go, do you think it could help? Can you get some for me? How can I do this? And I'm like, well, now you come forward.
Sure.
It's like, no, I can't do anything for you. It's illegal. That's the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, suddenly have all these new friends, right?
Yeah, all your new friends, and it continues to go on. Just before we went on air, a lady in Canada called here looking for information. Her dad has some kind of terrible cancer, and where can I get the oil, and da-da-da-da-da. And unfortunately, she lived in an area where one of our trusted cohorts is in that world, and he'll take care of her. But unfortunately, she never called us before. She never sent us a nickel. She probably won't, even though this stuff might save her dad's life. Right. And that's the unfortunate part of what we do, and it's the unfortunate part of the way it is. And I just want to say again, thank you for not being that way, for being a good nurse, for being a good citizen, and for helping a lot of people, and for contacting us and working with us. It's all a good deal. So thanks again, and thanks for coming on the radio.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
You're very welcome. And folks, Marilyn and I will be back again at this time next week on timeforhemp.com. We'll also be back at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, same time, but basically that's our program, Patients at a Time. And what we'd like to do on that contact in that area is bring on a patient or their caregiver. So we will attempt to do that and do it very well. In the meantime, we want you to remember that you get a lot of information from us at www.medicalcannabis.com. And one thing I want you to look for is another website. This website is the Medical Cannabis Declaration. This is an international declaration, and we want you as an individual and your organization, anything at all, the VFW Post,
4-H Club.
4-H Club, Mr. and Mrs., use your titles or not, but we want you to sign this declaration. And what the declaration says is that all human beings on the face of the earth have a right to use cannabis medically because it's just a human right, period. And the webpage we want you to go to is www.medical-cannabis-declaration.org. Okay, one more time. medical-cannabis-declaration.org. In the meantime, Al Byrne, Marilyn Mathery from Patients at a Time, thank you for listening, and hope to talk to you again or listen to you again or whatever we're doing here again next week. Until then, take care.
And I want to remind you that Steve Danks is on right after this program, coming to you out of Manchester, England, and we've got all kinds of great programming here on the big broadcasting network that's heard all around the world. And just know that the next time you hear me, you'll know that it's time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look and spend some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yes, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 bales of oil. No need for pesticides to poison